Hey, just wanted to take a moment, for all of you. Today, it's a sunny day, and I really wanted to make sure that, I'm sitting in the car waiting for my wife. She's in Home Goods doing some shopping today. So I figured, go ahead and just record a quick video. One of the things I think I realized that I haven't really done is I haven't really told you my story. And so that's what I want to do while I wait, at this time for my wife to come out. By the way, my wife's name is Megan, and we've been together. We're going to be 18 years this year, so it's been quite a journey with her as well, and I love her very much. But it's just, that's just part of my story. So a little bit about me. When I was about 15, 16, I got a chance to, I did okay in school. I joined some extracurriculars and everything else, and I was fortunate where, early on, I would say when I was a child, I knew I wanted to get into something with electricity. Kind of the story I tell, which, obviously in hindsight always comes across a little bit silly. But my dad had a calculator watch, and it was a digital watch, and it had stopped working. And I remember just, I think I was probably like 11 or 12, and it caught my curiosity, and I was able to tinker with it and play with it, and it turned on, and it surprised me. It was the greatest thing that I had really seen and experienced. It was the first time that I'm like, this is what I want to do. I want to work with electricity, electronics, and at that time I didn't really have a great concept of it. I just knew that I thought it was really cool. So, I started going down that path from there on. I then, I went into School of Arts, Cleveland School of the Arts, which, believe it or not, I turned into a drama major. And that was a great part of my life, and I really appreciated that. And that was, really grades 4 through 8, for the most part. But one of the things I appreciated out of my drama class is the fact that out of that, what I was able to do is really experience lighting controls. And lighting controls took me down the path of, and if you're not familiar with lighting controls, if you think of like plays that they do where they have different lights and you're controlling different colors of light onto a stage while the performers are doing their scenes, that became a really big thing for me. And I got to really experience what it's like to wire a system up, to program a system, and it caught my interest. And, by this point I'm in 8th grade. So, as I started looking into high school, I got into a school that had a electrical program. So I was able to go in there, and for the electrical program, it really gave me a good basis for just being able to understand, how electronics worked or how electricity worked. And then I thought I was going to be electrical technician or, electrician, one of those guys, right? I got a chance to intern at NASA. It's one of the things I'm very proud of. I got a couple of summer internships, and the first summer that I had an internship on, I actually was able to work on full-blown electrical. I got a chance to work with some really smart guys that all they did was wire up 440 volt electrical panels, which was probably the least voltage that they needed for a lot of the scientific experiments that were going on there. I remember this one time I went into this big massive room where there was a scientist, and he was working on an experiment, and he wanted an outlet. Seems simple enough, right? And so as he starts to tell us where he wants this outlet, he goes to the middle of the floor and he points. And he's like, I want it right here. And we both look at him, and we're looking around and realize there's no walls anywhere near where he's pointing, and the walls and the roof line is like 90 feet up. I mean, it's tremendously, maybe, really, really high. And we're like, where do you want it? And he's like, I want it right here. And he held out his hand. And so at that time, that's when we realized we're going to have to go from the wall up, over, and straight down exactly where he wanted it. And so that was the experience. We actually did it, and it was fun. Well, my mentor, that the gentleman that mentored me at that time, he saw how passionate I was. I was really into the electrical, and so I got a chance to actually come back on a second internship the next year. And during the second internship, I actually switched from electrical to electronics, right? So instead of, running wire and conduit and all that stuff, I got into some electronics and actually had a chance to do some robotics as part of that. And that was actually part of the program that I was in. Well, my mentor there at that time, he introduced me to computers in a very different way. He actually took me to, he pulled me aside. He's like, Alex, let's jump in the car. We're going to go to the computer store. I'm like, computers? I haven't really thought too much about computers. That wasn't really on my path. And he's like, yeah, let me go ahead and just tell you, what you're going to be doing for me over the next couple of weeks. I'm like, all right, sounds good, right? I'm young. I think at that point I'm probably like, 17. And I'm like, I'm excited. Let's go for it, right? Actually, I was probably younger. I was probably like 15 or 16 by that point. So, he took me in the car, and we ended up going to Micro Center. And during Micro Center, hey babe, how you doing? Come on in. Yeah. All right. So just continuing the story. Where was I? Okay. So, yeah. So, my mentor at the time at NASA, he told me, hey Alex, let's go to the computer store, electronics store. And I'm like, okay. I mean, again, I hadn't really done much with computers. And I mean, I kind of heard about them, but it wasn't something I was extremely excited about at that time. It was everything was new to me. I just thought, oh, electronics. So I guess that's fine. So, we went, and he bought a bunch of parts and orders, and he collected all the all the pieces, and they put them in a big box. And we brought him back, and along the way, on the way back to the office, he says, Alex, I want you to build me a computer. I'm like, okay. I don't know what's involved, but all right, let me go ahead and I'll it's all the same, right? It's putting pieces together. That's what I figured. And I'm like, okay, so is this NASA stuff? And he's like, no, you're going to build my personal computer. I'm like, oh, okay, here's the pressure, right? This is the guy who's vouching for me. I hope I'm able to put all the pieces together, right? And hopefully it works at the end. But, we got to NASA, and he was able to walk me through it. It was really fun. I was able to put the case together, take everything out of the boxes, put all the pieces together, the motherboard, the memory, the hard drive. And then after that, he gave me the software to install on it. And it was a really fun experience. It was kind of like a bonus. It really wasn't what the internship was about. But it really led me down now a new and a different path. So, when I got back into high school, the program I was in happened to switch from, electronics. And that year, they switched over to a computer repair program, which honestly was a big coincidence, and it worked out in my favor. The funny part about it is this: the instructors only knew electronics. They had no idea what to do about computers. They got curriculum, they got the books, they got the material, but they didn't know what to do. But since I had that internship, I'm like, all right, I'm going to take full advantage of this. And so I immediately started going through, the electrical, well, not electrical, the computer repair materials. I was going through the books, and I was able to get, a certification that basically said that I had the equivalent knowledge of 900 hours of computer repair. At that time, A plus was still, becoming popular. I hadn't really, thought about that up to this point. But, as I got closer and was able to finally graduate, I started working at an Italian restaurant, and was able to, make some good side money, and I was hustling, trying to do what I can just to make some money at that point. By this point I'm like 18 years. I'm driving and trying to figure out my life as to what I'm going to do. So my sister just happened to get me an interview for an internship at a company called CT Timbers, Christian Timbers. Christian Timbers was an executive search firm. That's irrelevant. But what was relevant is that it just happened to be an internship where they were 90% Macintosh, Apple Macintosh. And so, I was able to take advantage of that. And they were transitioning over to Dell computers as part of the internship. And so I actually interned there for almost 2 years. And it was a paid internship. It was full time. And I was able to really get to know and understand technology. And they actually helped me with my first certification. And it was actually an Apple certification. So that was exciting. And they also helped me, be able to start going down the path of a Dell certification. So, they did go through some rounds of layoffs. Funny enough, because I'm the intern, I managed to survive a couple of the layoffs, and it was the second or third layoffs. I think it was the third one that they finally let me go. Well, by that point, I had impressed quite a few people by that point. And so one of the directors of IT who, actually originally interviewed me for my internship, he had moved on to a different company. He actually moved on to a company called Dirt Devil, which was based pretty local in the city of Solon, Ohio, at that time. And he said, Alex, I know that you just got let go, because I reached out to him. He's like, I can't guarantee, I don't have a position for you, but right now we have some work that we just need to get done, and I just need a few people for temporary basis. Can you come in? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. So, I was able to basically contract position with them for about 9 months. But it was around month 8 that they started talking about, I think they had 3 to 4 contractors that were all kind of in the same boat as myself. And, they were able to open up an actual tech position. And so we all interviewed for it. And I managed to qualify and get the job. Now, the position itself was more of a support position. So it was internal help desk. I was responsible really for answering the phones, helping, more internal customer service. I was able to then be able to really support a lot of the hardware. They were mainly a Dell shop, so a lot of Dell computers, a lot of printers that were Xerox branded. And I really enjoyed that job, and I stayed in that support role for probably about, I want to say, 18 months. Now, what's interesting about this is this. During that period of time, that 18 months, I went from a contractor, initially, then I became a level 1 help desk technician. Now, they have 3 levels. Within 18 months, I was able to get to level 2 on my way to level 3. When I became a level 3, that was kind of the end of year 2. And by that point, just to kind of give you context, when I was working at NASA, I was making $7 an hour for that internship. It was great money at 15, 16, especially like in the late 90s. So I was happy, right? I was living the dream, so to speak, at that age, because I had my own job and everything else. But then, when I started working at Dirt Devil, I went from making $10 an hour to $13 an hour in a relatively small span. And when you're, at that point, you gotta keep in mind, maybe those numbers sound low, but adjusted for inflation, especially the rates that we're at right now, that's like going from, $15 an hour or even $12 an hour today to like $18, $19 an hour, equivalent. So, I mean, for me, it was a big jump, and I was able to, really make some, better decisions financially as a result of it. So I stayed, I was able to get to that level 3 within 2 years. Then from there, I was able to jump into a server administrator role. Now, here's the interesting part about that. So this is mid 2000s at this point, and there were, Microsoft certifications. At that point, the Microsoft MCSA, the Microsoft Certified Systems Administrator certification, was the end-all be-all. I mean, that was like the top Microsoft cert that you could get. The second certification, and that was big at that time, was a new company at that time that was all the rave and was really reshaping the industry, and it was called VMware. And so, as Dirt Devil started going down the virtualization path, I actually they actually sent me to a VMware training. And the VMware is interesting because they require you to take their training, which is about a week-long live, plus a exam in order to get VMware Certified Professional, to get that credential. So the Dirt Devil only cared about the training side. They didn't care about the certification side. But so they sent me to the training, and then I was able to then pay for, I think it was like $200 at that time, and just take the test, and I passed. And at that point, my status, my value went up. My value went up in the market. My value went up in the peers. I was able to frame it. I was proud of it. And it was really a first major notch in my belt. Now, by that point, I already had Dell. I was Dell certified. I was Xerox certified. I had gone through these, other certifications, but that one was the one because it was more bleeding edge. Then from there, I was able to, like I mentioned, I was able to become a server administrator. And once I became a server administrator, I transitioned from helping people with their laptops and desktops to now I'm in the server room. And in the server room, you learn so much. You learn cabling, you learn electricity, you learn electrical, you learn Ethernet cabling, you learn networking, you learn computing and how to rack and stack, and really worked a lot with my hands. I also got the chance to learn a lot about phone systems and call center systems, and these are things that I was able to learn. And so the other certification that I managed to get is I went through Global Knowledge. They're still around. Great training company. I would definitely use them again if I needed to go down this path again. And they had a boot camp type of event where if you came for 1 week, then if the training was down in Washington D.C., then I could get the training and certification. Now, Dirt Devil initially was hesitant to send me. So what I did was I was able to convince them, like, you know what? Go ahead and send me. I'll take I'll take my time off, right? So, and I'll pay for my own travel. And I was able to negotiate with them. So they went ahead and they sent me to the first round of of the certification, and that was the Microsoft Certified Systems Administrator. So that was about a week long, where I studied heavily. I was live instructor, and then after that, I would immediately take the test. Now, to get the MCSA at that time was actually, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was 4 exams. Could be 5. I can't remember now. But it was 4 or 5 exams that I had to take that were Microsoft certified, or Microsoft exams. And if I passed them, if I got all 4 of those, then I would get the Microsoft Certified System Administrator credential, which was huge back then. Then, while I was there, I found out that Microsoft had recent released, or maybe something I hadn't really thought about. They had a Microsoft Certified Systems Engineer credential, which was 1 level higher. And as I'm going through the administrator course, I'm talking with the instructor, and he's like, "Yeah, he's like, I know, I asked him, like, when you're done with the course, like, are you traveling or anything?" He's like, "No, not yet, because once I'm done with you guys, I'm going to continue with the MCSE." I'm like, "MCSE? I hadn't really given much thought to that." He's like, "Well, how long is that?" He's like, "Oh yeah, that's another 4 days." And I was like, "Okay, like, what's that entail?" He's like, "Well, it's a little more live, but it's 3 more exams. So if you pass all 7 exams, you'll get your MCSE." And I started thinking, I'm like, I'm already in DC, and so I called my job. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go for it. I called my job, and I told them, I was like, "Hey, look, I'm going to take another week of vacation. I'm going to continue with training, and I'll see you right after." And they said, "Okay, fine." And I foot the bill for the rest of the event, the training, the cost of the certifications, the exams, all that. I paid for it, and probably one of the best decisions I made, because what ended up happening is after that second week, Dirt Devil had round layoffs. Now I'm still in training, and the round of layoffs happens at my job, and my leader at the time got let go. And so I'm like, okay, I can kind of see like what's going on. I didn't know I didn't know exactly all the details, but I knew I was going to be coming back to a different company. So the good thing is, in my mind, I'm like, I at least increased my value. So I finished the 2 weeks. I returned to work. I get a call from HR. "Hey, Alex, we want to talk to you." I'm like, all right, we'll see about what's about to happen here. So, I go into the HR, and I'm talking with the HR director, and he's like, "Alex, obviously, you heard about all the layoffs that really happened while you were gone." And I'm like, yeah, I understand. I've been through a layoff before as an intern, and I've seen the layoffs, so I kind of understand what this process is. He's like, I want to make sure that that we value what you have been investing your time in. And so what we want to do is, don't worry, we're not letting you go. We actually want to promote you." I'm like, "You want to promote me?" I'm like, "Okay, like I didn't understand why." And he's like, "Well, you just got all these key certifications, and we want to make sure that we show you that how much you're valuable to us. So we're going to go ahead and pay for and reimburse you for all the travel, the full cost of all the certifications, the full cost of the training. We'll reimburse your food, your mileage, everything else that you just expensed, or that you just had to get this credential. And then on top of that, what we're going to do is we're going to promote you to a senior systems administrator within our organization. And oh, by the way, we're going to give you a immediate increase to $60,000 a year." Whoa, right? I mean, you start doing the math. I went from $42,000 to $60,000 just by going on a 2-week certification trip. that to me kind of showed me, okay, what's possible in IT, right? Like what kind of future I can really have in IT. So I accepted, of course. I'm like, hey, more money. This is great. And I continued down that path. And you know, after that, I was able to get a few more years of experience. I got additional bonuses. I actually started qualifying for bonuses, so I was able to get some bonuses paid out to me in that position. I was able to reach really within Dirt Devil at that time. They purchased Hoover, and with that credentials and everything else that I was doing, I was able to help learn a lot of integration work. I was able to support people. I had customer service skills. And all in all, I was at Dirt Devil / Hoover by that point for 7 years. And it was a great time in my life. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. I got to really learn a lot, met with a lot of people, had really good mentors. At that point, Bill Moore, who was promoted actually during that round of layoffs, he got promoted to manager of the IT group. He became one of my best friends, one of my best mentors, and I highly respect him, you know, to this day, with everything that he's helped me with. And so, you know, so this was sort of a great start to my career. I was for a lot of people, they would say, hey, you hit it, right? You got to where you wanted to be. And for myself, I think once I left Dirt Devil, I was probably making about $65,000 at that time, annual salaried. It was non-exempt, so I didn't get overtime. But you know, I was doing pretty well. And by that point, I'm 25 years old by that point, you know, just based off or 25, 26, but you know, where I'm at in my career. And, you know, from there, I really had an opportunity then to transition into a consulting role. Now consulting is different, and that's a different story. But what I will tell you is the journey that I took, and that from square one to $65,000 in literally about 8 to 9 years is pretty impressive, considering I didn't go to college, considering I only went the certification route, but I had great mentors along the way. And it's those mentors that made a difference for me. It's those mentors that helped me realize that making money in IT is not just about the certifications. It's also the other tools, the other skills I needed to develop in order to really be valued by the organization. Because one of the things the HR director told me is, he's like, hey, I understand you got your credentials. That's great. We don't want you to go nowhere, right? So we're going to promote you. We're going to put you in this position. But keep in mind, I already had a reputation built out. They ain't just give me a promotion just because I got a credential. No, I had built up skills. I had built up human capital. I had built up a rapport. I had learned customer service. I was providing value to their business, and they saw me as valuable. And as a result, when I got the credential, it was icing on the cake, right? It was that thing that really hardened it, where they had no choice but to give me more money. They had no choice but to get me promoted. And that's really the key to this, and what I want you to understand. Because although it sounds like it might have been just, hey, I got this credential and I got more money, no, I built up my value. My good mentors helped me understand what it took to be successful. They helped me because they learned certain lessons along their journey. They shared them with me. I listened. I applied those lessons. And thus, when it came time to the right opportunities, guess what happened? I was successful. And, you know, when you're making $65,000 at age 25, 26 in, 2006, 2007, 2008, that's really, really good money. Adjust for inflation, that has to be, $90,000, $100,000 today. So it's something that I definitely want to share with you guys, and really help you understand the value of what it means. And that's why I want to share my lessons with you. I want you to understand what it really takes to be successful in IT, because my journey did not end there. And that's a story for another time, right? So I'll share that soon. But I just wanted to kind of give you an introduction into my past, my history, kind of my own journey, as well as, kind of give you a good introduction into why I'm so passionate about helping others like yourself understanding how to get started in IT, right? So that you can be able to accomplish the great things that you want to be able to accomplish, to support the families that you want to support, to do whatever it is that you need to do, realistically, right? More so than anything else. So with that, just wanted to share my story, a little bit about my background, and you'll hear, I'll do another video on my consulting journey and what I learned there, because it's been a ride and I love it, every moment of it. So along the way, I also learned a lot of valuable lessons, a lot of experience, and lessons that I want to make sure I share with you, because I believe that the better you're able to hear what I realized and what I learned sooner, then that just increases your odds, it increases your value, and it makes you more aware for how successful you can actually be. Because a lot of times the limiting factor is yourself. And that's what I want you to overcome. All right. So until next time, we'll talk. Again, it was great talking to you, and we'll chat later. Bye.